Hi friends, I'm Parviz from geekschoolers.com, and this is our second video in Python programming language. Now in this video we're going to talk about variables in Python. Now first of all, what are variables? So variables are used for storing data values. Now in some languages like C++ or Java, variables have predetermined types, and a variable can only be used to hold values of that type. In Python, we may reuse the same variable to store values of any type. For example, if you are familiar with the C++ or if you're familiar with the Java. Now, for example, if you want to store an integer value, now, for example, I have 20 and I want to store, so this is an integer value and I want to store this. Now in C++ or Java, you can use, for example, int c. So for example, I want to store this integer in a C variable. It's like placeholder, and so 20. Now, for example, if you have a floating point, we can just say float c to 20. Or for example, if you have a string, you can just say string name, and you can add your name. Or for example, if you have a car, if you want to store a car, you can just use like this. Now in Python, we don't need to use these data types. For example, we are going to store this C. We can just say C20 and we can print C. So let me just comment this. Okay, now we can print C, and if I run this, so let me close this. Okay, now let me just run this. Let me remove this Python version. I'm using Python 3.9, and okay, now you can see we have 20 in here. Now we can use, for example, we can just say another, for example, variable we can create a 2.5, and we can print this. So print a. So you can see we have 2.5, and for example, for the name, we have a string name in here. We can just say name, and we can print this name. So now you can see this is the name, and for example, a, we can print this a. So you can see that how easily we can create variables in Python, and we can reuse these variables. So now let me just tell you something. Now, for example, to define any variable in Python, we simply assign a value to a label. For example, it's a label, and we assign a value to this label. For example, this is a label, and we assign this name to this label. For example, in here, I'm going to create a variable that's called count, and which this count contains an integer value of 2. Now let me just show you. Let me remove all of them. So I'm going to just say count 2. So this is we can say that this is a label, and we are going to assign 2 value to this label or variable. Now we can print this count, and you can see we have 2 in here. Also, we can say print count value is count. Now you can see that we are receiving count in here. We can define or create several variables in one line, but this is usually considered by the style. For example, we can say count, result, and total, and we can define all of them in one line like this, and we can print all of them. So we can just say count, we can say print result, and we can print total. And now if I run this, so you can see that we are receiving the values, but it's not a good idea. You can just make it like this. So count 2, and we can say total 2, result 2, and total 2. And if we run this, so the result is the same. Okay, now if you're receiving some warnings like this, now if you see in here we have 2 weak warnings, and if I click on these, you can see that we are receiving too many blank lines and no new lines at the end of the file. So you can just hit Alt Shift Enter. So Alt Shift Enter. So, or you can just say Alt Shift Enter. No, it's not working. Or you can just click in here. So you can right click, and you can click on Show Quick Fixes, and you can reformat file. And so it's okay. Now you can see that we don't have the warning in here. So let me just run this again, and also we can bring this in here. So let me just move this to the right bottom like this. Okay, now so when you are going to create variables in Python, you need to accept some rules for the name of the variables. Now let me just say the first rule. Now variable names can contain only letters, numbers, and underscores. They can start with a letter or an underscore, but not with a number. For example, we can create a variable of, for example, count 1, and this is no problem. We can just print this. So count 1. So this is a warning of blank space, blank lines, so there's no problem. Now if I run this, so if you're worrying about this, you can just click on this warnings, and you can right click, and you can reformat this like this. Okay, now you can see that we are receiving 20 in here, so there's no problem in this name. But if you create a variable like this, and so you can see that we are receiving error in here, and if we print this, we cannot print this. And if I run this, so you can see that we are receiving invalid. Now this is the first rule, that when you're going to create a variable, so the variable names should contain only letters, numbers, and underscores. They can start with a letter, but not with a number. So now the second rule is that you cannot add spaces in the variable names. It's not allowed to add spaces in variable names, but you can use underscore in the variable names. For example, we want to create another variable, so we can create a variable like this, my name, and we can print this. So this is no problem, and we can run this. So we are receiving our name in here. But if we do like this, this is not allowed. So it's the second rule, that we cannot add a space between the variables. You can add underscore, there is no problem, but you cannot add a space like this. So you can see that we're receiving error in here. Now the third rule is that you cannot use Python keywords and function names as variable names. So do not use words that is reserved in Python, for example like print. So for example, we cannot say print 220. So it's because it's a reserved keyword in Python for printing. Or for example, if you want to create a function, you can not use print like this. Okay guys, so this was about Python variables, and if you have any question, please let me know. And also for further information, you can just check my website, geekscholars.com.